What's up guys, welcome to new Unreal Engine 5 tutorial. Today I am going to show you how to animate your player's mouth with your mic voice. It's going to be very easy to follow, so let's get started. Alright, so I recently showed how in my current game, which is launching on Steam later this month, so make sure to wishlist it, you can actually talk into the mic and the mouth moves, and a lot of you asked for a tutorial, so finally here it is. So first things first, we need a character with a jawbone. Why do we need this? Well, to actually move the mouth. So if you don't have a jawbone, you can add one in Blender or in the new Unreal Engine editor tools, but if you simply import a metahuman, you will have a jawbone. So if we go to this metahuman that I imported, he is over here. You will see that if I open up his face model and then go to the skeleton tree and search for mouth, you will see the mouth lower, and you can see that we have this kind of bone over here. Now if we go ahead and click on disable the animation blueprint, we can go ahead and move the mouth up and down and actually go ahead and talk, which is super cool, right? So make sure you leave this centered, and let's actually go ahead and apply this over here. So first things first, we need to make sure that we get an input from our microphone and then apply it and save it in a variable, so then we can use it to apply it into our face. So in this case, let's go ahead and open up the third person character blueprint or whatever character blueprint that you are using, and I'm going to be adding a component. Now this component is going to be the audio capture, okay, over here. If we click this, we can add this mic over here, and that's it. We have now the input of our mic. So how does this work? Well, Unreal Engine will basically get your default microphone in your PC. In this case, it might be the one that you have on Windows or Mac or whatever it is. So make sure that you have the mic that you want to use set as default in your Windows settings or Mac settings or whatever it is. Very important, because obviously if not, you will not be able to test it, right? Very important, okay? And if we go down into the events of this new component, we have the on audio envelope value. I'm gonna go ahead and add this event over here, and we basically receive the volume of our mic. So the more that we talk, the higher this volume will be, so the more we'll open the player's mouth. As simple it is. So how can we actually go ahead and start to actually put this as a variable that we can use for our mouth? Well, it's very easy. First things first, let's just get this sprint here, and let's literally sprint what we get in the screen. Okay, so if I press play, you'll see that nothing happens. Why? Because we have to activate it. So very important, go to the mic component and make sure that auto activate is enabled. Okay, this is very important, otherwise it will not be enabled by default. So now if we press play, you can see that you can hear yourself, which I will deactivate in a second, and we have also the prints. So yeah, first things first, let's deactivate ourselves. So to do this, back in the audio component, go until you see the advanced, the effects section, and then you see the enable bass submix, disable this, and now you will not hear yourself and go crazy, but you see everything else. So as you can see, we have a value. If I stay silent, that value is pretty much 0. It's a bit near 0. And if I talk, as you can see, can get a bit more, of a higher number. But still, the numbers are super small. We are in 0.01, 0.2, shit like that. So we want to increase the range of these numbers so it's kind of easier and makes more sense to use with our jaw and our mouth later on. Because otherwise, it's going to be a bit hard to find a good balance of numbers. So we basically just got to round them up and kind of put them in a certain range from 0 to 1. So let's go back to our character, and what we're going to do is simply get this and do a float log, okay? And I'm going to put a base of around 10. Then we want to clamp this, okay? We want to keep it on a certain range. So let's go ahead and search for clamp, and we will need to find the clamp float as we're clamping a number, but we actually want to do a map clamp ranged, okay? because we want to actually clamp it not between a 0 and a 1, but actually with some values. So in range A, this is basically the loudest it can get. For me, it will be around minus 2.7, okay? Now in range B is the more silent it can get, okay? In this case, minus 0.7 work nice for me. And then the 0 will be 0, but B will be 1. So we will make sure that our audio from these numbers is rounded between these other numbers. So between 0 and 1, which is better. And of course, I presume that if you have a decent mic volume set up, these values would also work for you, okay? With that said, let's go ahead and simply save this on a variable, and this will be the mouth mic. This is the variable that we'll be using to actually update our mouth. So that's it. If I now go here and actually print this new variable, you will see that we get numbers between 0 and 1. So if I don't speak, we got 0. But if I speak and I go very loud, we will get pretty much 2, 1, which is what we want. So we basically just said, okay, let's do it from 0 to 1 instead of from 0 to 0.001. This is the range, and you get the point. Nice. So now we have it on a nice new variable, so it is time to actually apply it into our player's face. So first things first, let's go ahead and create a new animation blueprint for this face only. So over here, let's go and right click, new animation blueprint, and let's find the face, which I think is this one, because yeah, I think it's this one. So this is basically for all metahumans, it seems like. Let's name this ABP underscore and then something as mouth, okay? And with that said, open this up. So here we go, we have the mouth over here. We're gonna go ahead and disable the post process, very important, so we see everything going on. And once that's done, it is time to begin adding our stuff. So we want to add an input pose. What is this? Well, this animation blueprint will not be, you know, the base animation blueprint that we use in our locomotion. This animation blueprint is gonna be called a post-process animation blueprint. This means that it is an additive animation blueprint that goes over a mesh, in this case only for our face. So this will get any input pose from the other animation blueprint that we have, which will be the whole locomotion and all that stuff. So from there, what we want to do is go ahead and move a bone. So we can simply go to transform bone and nothing will appear. Why? Because we need to go from local to component, okay? Because the bones are in a component space. So now when we do this, we can actually transform the bone. Okay, perfect. And then we go ahead and plug this in, it will automatically add the component back to local. So this node will allow us to actually modify the translation, rotation, and scale of a specific bone in the mesh. In this case, let's select this node over here. Let's go to the details panel, and in bone to modify, we want to select it. For me, in this case, it will be the mouth lower, and that's it. If I compile, nothing will happen because obviously we don't have any new settings over here. So first things first, we want to make sure that translation is set to ignore, very important. And when I click expose a spin, so we will hide translation because we are not interested in translation, which is basically moving the mouth up, down, left, or right. We just want the rotation because otherwise it will look weird. And then when I leave the rotation as it is, but the scale, we want to make sure it's ignore, and then expose a spin, click it again so it is hidden. And now we only have the rotation. Nice. So now in rotation, we do have to change one thing, which changes into the replace existing. So we will replace the existing rotation of our mouth bone so we can actually have control over it. And then finally in rotation space, this depends a bit on the bone hierarchy and how everything is set up, but for now let's set it on bone space. This will probably work for most of you in a lot of cases. Now if I go ahead and rotate this, you can see that it actually moves the mouth, which is super cool. So yeah, it's basically changing the X value here. If I put it 100 and I compile, you can see it's wide open. So yeah, it's basically just playing around with this X value over here. Okay, this is gonna be our mouth value. So now we just gotta pick this variable from our character blueprint and apply it into here. Literally, As simple as that. So let's go ahead and create a new variable over here, which will be the mouth volume, and then this will be a float, and then we want to get this over here, and then we want to go ahead and plug this into here. But obviously we can't plug a float to a rotation. We want to right click and split it so we have the individual axis, and remember that we are only interested in the X. That's basically moving the mouth. So that's it. So now if this mouth volume is here like 100, well, it will open the mouth. If it's 0, it's 0. So everything works as it should, which is perfect for us. But now it's just important to actually go ahead and update this variable. But first we want to make sure to add a multiplier over here, and this will be the intensity of the mouth opening. In this case, how wide would you want to open the mouth? Well, very simple. Let's simply unplug this over here, and I want to go and move this around, and I can't because I have to what was it? Yeah, I need to do it from here. So compile, and I think 30 might be a good number. Let me see. Yeah, so basically find the maximum openness that you want to have. I think 35 is 30 is good. Okay, so we found the max one. Let's just put 30. And why are we doing this? Well, this mouth volume, as you can see in here, will go from 0 to 1. So that means that 0 times 30 will be 0, but 1 times 30 it will be 30. So it will go from that range, if that makes sense. Now we're just going to go to the event graph, and let's add an initialization, which is over here. This is the begin play. So over here we will simply cast to the third person character blueprint, because it's going to be the owner of this, and then we want to right click and save it. So this will be the character blueprint over here. So now on the update, which happens every frame, we want to check for this volume of our mouth. So we just want to get this, right click, convert to validate get. So we'll only continue if we actually have this set to true, otherwise we'll get an error. So make sure that you have this over here, and then we want to get the mouth mic and set the mouth volume of here. And now that's how we are communicating this variable from our third person character blueprint to our mouth. And that's it, we're good to go. So last but not least, we just have to actually make sure to add this animation blueprint to our head, and then also of course to a third person character. So first things first, let's go to the face mesh, and then what we want to do is search for the poses animation. As you can see, it's over here. Right now it is face mesh whatever. We want to select mouth, okay? And now if we do this, make sure to save. We have this new animation blueprint that we created for our mouth settings in the mesh. So the mesh will use this animation blueprint, right? So now we just want to go to the Hudson, and we want to copy everything over here, okay? This kind of parts from the body to the beard. I'm not interested in this for now. So now if I go here, I can simply click the mesh, paste, and then simply go ahead and select the body. Okay, so make sure to only select the body, drag it inside of the mesh, we set the location rotation, and now it's over here. And then last but not least, I want to go to the construction script, set the leader pose component to be this one over here. So we want a body, we're gonna get the torso, the legs, the feet, and the face, and all of this will go to the upper one over here. And then the new leader pose will be the mesh, because of course we want to make sure that the whole body follows the animation of the mannequin. And now last but not least, let's select the main mesh, which is the mannequin. I'm gonna set the visibility to false, but before, let's set this to always tick pose and refresh bones. So what they just did, well, this wasn't really part of the tutorial because it's nothing to do with the mouth. This is basically putting our metahuman as our playable character, as you can see, and I covered this in another tutorial. So if you want to learn more in depth what I did over here with the set leader component, just check that out. But basically, we just made sure that the body parts copy the animations of our Manny, which is on top. That way we have now the new metahuman. So anyway, coming back, now we have our face, which has everything that we need to do. Now make sure, just in case, that we have here also the mouth animation blueprint selected, even though we did it originally on the mesh, but just in case, right? And now when I press play, you can see that nothing happens. Why? Because we have to still initialize a couple things, but very important, let's make sure that this camera is a bit more zoomed in, because we are like a bit too far away. So maybe like 150. Okay, yes, a bit better. Okay, so why isn't our mesh moving? So what's the issue? That's because we are also overriding the face over here, so we want to make sure that we ignore the face. And now if we press play, we actually have the mouth moving, as you can see. Obviously the actual thing doesn't animate, so you will have to basically put it in position, but you get my idea. You want to make sure that it's under the torso, and then just basically fit it in. So it's very useful to disable the snapping tool and manually just put a bit inside of it. And of course you can spend more time to look a bit nicer, but in other words, we cannot also use the the mannequin's animation for this, because we only are interested on the actual stuff. But there we go, we have now the mouth moving, which is pretty cool. So that's it, guys. If I found this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you like the video and subscribe to my channel. Join my Unreal Club if you're serious about learning Unreal Engine 5. The link is in the description. And now, yes, with all that said, bye bye.